Welcome back to the channel, lads and ladies, and welcome to the next Pathfinder Logue. So, unfortunately, my life has proven to be too busy to be part of two Pathfinder groups, so what was probably the more organized group is the one that I ducked out of to go enjoy the amateur hour with my friend, my local dungeon master. And I go over to their house, and they have 5 boys, so it's always an experience when I show up around bedtime, and they've got to shovel their kids into the bedroom. Anyway, I haven't talked about the last 2 sessions that I had, and last night was my most recent one. It's both times it's been David and me. And David's character, what's his name? Spooter or something weird like that. Wisdom, that's right, Wisdom. So my boy, Wisdom, and my own character, the Kitsune chosen one of cats, Makoto Nagano, on the adventuring path. Last we left off our heroes, we had turned in a quest to rescue the land from a couple of monster groups, and we picked up another mission to, well, maybe let's call it a contract, shall we, to rescue a village that had been having some problems with the undead. And I happened to level up right before that to level 4, and as a paladin you get some pretty neat things at level 4, but especially as a chosen one paladin, you get all of your paladin abilities that have been held back from you because of your chosen one development path, I guess. Anyway, I suddenly was able to use Lay on Hands, Smite Evil, cast a couple of level 1 spells. Like, I became a legit paladin that day, just in time to go fight some undead. And this story of that entire night of D&D can be summed up in a few sentences. We kicked some ass. So between Wisdom and Makoto, we didn't even really need to rely on the army of cats at all. They're sort of becoming redundant to the story. Their role in combat will hopefully fade away. It's not really convenient to have a horde of cats following you on. But it was fun while it lasted, but it's just a headache for the DM, and it's not fair to, you know, the common house cat to consider them to contribute in higher level combat. It just wouldn't work out well for them. We had some great times. We only lost 1 cat, Nuber the Bold, the first martyr of the cat cult, and that all is history from previous episodes of the series. So we showed up to this village. We killed several undead. We fought this creature that was like, just like, I don't know how to put it. It's sort of a mid-rank undead. It's supposed to be a little bit more scary than your average zombie, but we just tore it to pieces. I'm not sure if we took any damage, but I think maybe a little bit. And then we go to this, I think it was like a creepy temple or something where the undead were coming from. Kind of genericus Rex, go destroy those filthy creatures, which was actually a ton of fun in the game because, again, I just got my paladin abilities. Usually paladins start getting fed some pretty cool abilities right after level 1. But because I am a chosen one, I sort of discover my paladin powers later on in character progression. So I just got my powers, I was feeling awesome, I could heal wounds, I could smite evil, and oh man, smite evil is really, really powerful in Pathfinder. In D&D 3.5, I think 3.5, I know 3.0 has it this way. Smite evil is like a one-time use attack. So for one attack, you have this incredible benefit. But in Pathfinder, it persists until you die or your target dies. So it's incredibly powerful, and it basically means that the target of your smite evil is gonna have a bad time. Especially since we're playing characters that have pretty ridiculous stats. I think my character was created with a total of a 22 dexterity and a 22 charisma, which is pretty ridiculous. But that's just the kind of characters we're playing. We're playing sort of epic hero type characters, and there's all kinds of just ways to have fun with the story. I'm interested to see the future of the cat cult and the future of Nagano as the chosen one. I did distribute some pamphlets after we took down the undead in the area. It was a really simple mission: go in, clean them out. And I was talking to Wisdom, and I'm like, man, we should be Ghostbusters. Like, this is going great for us. And Sam is just like rubbing his head, like, man, I'm upping the difficulty on the next encounter. You know what? He did. Because last night we encountered our next mission. So I'm skipping over a lot of stuff. Just really simple things. Nothing really exciting, but it was fun to play. We did a lot of shopping in town last night. We picked up some quality gear. I gotta tell you this part because this is ridiculous. I kind of went on a mithril shopping spree. So, items and equipment made out of mithril cost a significant amount more than a regular item, but not really as much as an enchanted item would cost. So you can get a little bit of extra mileage out of buying things made from mithril, and the main effect that it has is that it makes the item lighter and easier to wield. So especially for armor and shields, mithril is incredible. It generally reduces the size category, or we'll call it that way, the size category of an armor, whereas if it would be light armor, it's essentially just as light as clothing and easy to move around in. A mithril chain shirt has no armor penalty and doesn't even really it doesn't even need your armor proficiency. It's that easy to use, as demonstrated in the classical historical fiction The Hobbit. But also, so I picked up a mithril chain shirt because, as I mentioned, I have a ludicrous dexterity score, and that is going to help me out. I also picked up a mithril tower shield, which is an incredible deal. Now, ordinarily, I mentioned that buying objects made from mithril is more expensive. For light armor, it costs 1,000 gold on top of the regular cost of the armor. So mithril chain shirt value 100 gold, mithril plus 1,000, so it's an 1,100 gold item. Excuse me. A tower shield, however, is fairly inexpensive. I think it's around 35 gold, but again, you're looking at a cost increase for an item made from mithril. but for shields, it only costs another 1,000, no matter the size of the shield, to make it from mithril. So if you want a mithril buckler, you can wield a shield as a mage or whatever if you aren't smart enough to just cast the shield spell on yourself and get a better benefit. Hey, I'm not here to judge. I'm just saying mithril is pretty cool. And so I picked up a mithril tower shield. Even though I don't have tower shield proficiency, it doesn't really count as a tower shield. Probably. The rules aren't really explicit there, but again, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. It is effectively a heavy shield in terms of how I can wield it, because it's so easy to wield as a lightweight mithril object, and it has no armor penalty because mithril. So I mean, mithril doesn't always eliminate the armor penalty of an item. It reduces it by 2. So for light armor and for all shields, it's fantastic because they don't get an armor penalty higher than 2. So pretty neat stuff. Alrighty, what else did we get? Oh, I have to mention, the reason I talked about all this mithril is not that I equipped my character with some pretty neat stuff that gave him a little bit better benefit to his armor class. That's all true. No, the important thing to mention is that I went out of my way to acquire a tiny mithril shirt, complete with a small helmet. Well, I mean, technically it's a tiny helmet, but you know what I'm saying. For Sergeant Whiskers, my cat. Who, by the way, if you haven't noticed before, or if I haven't mentioned, he's also my spiritual guide. And I didn't do a lot of looking into how the spiritual guide works for the Chosen One. I just enjoyed leading a cat army. But I looked into how exactly the envoy familiar works, which is what Sergeant Whiskers is for me. And not only does he act as someone who's fully trained in knowledge religion, which is pretty cool because then I don't have to put points into it. He can just give me advice and be my buddy. But also, he has some pretty decent stats. He has half my amount of hit points, putting him at 30 HP, which is godlike for a cat. He is truly the king of cats. And also, he has all of my saves, which are all over 10 right now because of Divine Grace and my ludicrous charisma score. So that's pretty good. Add to that the fact that he's tiny and he tends to just sit on my shoulder in combat, which means he can actually take cover behind me, which will come into play later. Did I mention we're going to fight a black dragon? We're going to fight a black dragon. And Sam made this very clear to us, so it was fair when that very powerful monster showed up and we decided to take it down. We almost lost somebody, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about Sergeant Whiskers' tiny suit of mithril armor. So he got a mithril chain shirt, and I had an extra 2,000 gold kicking around. And if you don't know about this, you need to start talking with your DM about permanent spells. So the way spell permanence works is I think it's a meta magic ritual that can be added to a lot of different kinds of spell, but especially shield and mage armor and excuse me, and the 2 level 1 spells that increase or decrease your size category are very useful ones to have applied to you. And I'm sure there's other ones that are useful as well. And again, this is one of those things you have to talk with your DM about because it can be easily abused. A level 1 permanent spell as a level 1 caster costs 2,000 gold. So, I had a permanent shield spell cast on Sergeant Whiskers. Between the mithril armor and the shield spell, it brought his armor class up to, I think, 21 or somewhere in that area, which is pretty ridiculous. And I will tell you why. Well, first off, Sergeant Whiskers, if he actually becomes the target of an enemy, can do things like a full defensive action. So his armor class goes up by even more. But maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's cut to the part where we fight a black dragon. Wisdom picked up some cool things as well, but I was designing cat armor, okay? I might have been a little bit distracted. And speaking of, I hear the baby waking up, so I'm going to go jump over for a minute, and I'll catch you guys back in just a second. So there we were, outside Podunk, wherever it's Placeville, excited to face our first dragon. This is not a small creature, but it wasn't a large one either. But did I mention that it's a dragon? The thing about Dungeons and Dragons is that it's kind of in the name of the game. And in keeping with that tradition, in Pathfinder, dragons are extremely dangerous creatures, and they're also fairly well polarized, to the point where a good half the dragons that you can visually identify are guaranteed to be evil, and the other half are guaranteed to be good. So it's sort of one of those things where if you know what it is you're facing, you know whether you're going to be fighting to the death or not, especially if one of you is a paladin. So we laid a trap for this dragon in the ruins of a village that it destroyed. We reasoned with each other, trying to figure out, we really didn't do any special preparation for this battle. A pride point that may have almost cost us the life of one of our group members, but I told you I'd tell you about that in a bit. We set up a simple trap for the dragon, a lure in the form of the 1,000 gold pieces we still had on us, enough to attract the attention of a black dragon, especially with the relative destruction around the place, possibly enough to arouse suspicion as well, but we'll get to that. And I had, yet remaining in my inventory, a poison arrow trap. Now, my character doesn't understand anything about traps, but God rest his soul, Dave, from the beginning of our adventure, handed this thing off to me after he disarmed it, and I was willing to take a crack at just resetting it up. So in the midst of this small pile of gold, I place our one remaining arrow trap, and I successfully set the trap. Luck was with me, and Sergeant Whiskers gave me an encouraging pat on the shoulder that gives me a +1 to pretty much anything I try to do, which is not bad. Then we hide very effectively, might I add. My character is very stealthy, and Wisdom had a really good roll on his stealth check. So we're hiding. The dragon eventually hoves into view, flying in and landing with a crash next to this small pile of loot. And he digs right in. Gold! Thwack! The arrow trap goes off. Of course he succeeds in a fortitude save against the poison. You're not going to make a dragon fail a fort save anytime soon. But it did a small amount of damage, and it was a great introduction to what was about to happen. And what happened was, quickly, Wisdom and Makoto cast a spell on themselves, Wisdom had already cast protection from acid on us, so that's helpful. It's not going to entirely negate the damage of a dragon's breath weapon, especially one as large as the one we were facing, but it definitely doesn't hurt to have some of that protection available. Wisdom cast some kind of... Oh, I think did he cast a buff on himself? I think so. And I cast Divine Favor, which would give me a +2 to my attack and damage for a minute, which should be the extent of this battle unless things go terribly, terribly wrong. 10 rounds of combat is a pretty long time in tabletop. So, the dragon, now very aware that he's in combat, rolls initiative along with us. Wisdom goes first, then the dragon, then me. So, David's character did his thing. I think he cast a Divine Bolt or something like that. Some kind of damage spell that the dragon would need to make a reflex save against. And the dragon attacked... Who did he attack? I think he attacked me. Miss. Because I had already declared the dragon as the target of my Smite Evil, which gives me my Charisma bonus as a deflection bonus to my armor class. So that's a +6 deflection. I told you our stats are pretty ridiculous in this playthrough. And that was on top of my 24 armor class that I had between my agility and my high quality unenchanted gear. And of course, all mithril, because that's how I roll. This is how I waste my money. So the dragon misses me, and oh, actually, did it? Yeah, it started the combat by shooting a line of acid at David's character. That's right. And that did a little bit of damage, but David made his reflex save, so he only took half damage, and off the top of that, 10 damage was absorbed by his energy protection. He did take a pretty good chunk of damage, though, considering all of that everything went right for him. It was the next round where the dragon attacked me. My action was to walk up and smack the dragon, or, to put it precisely, to stab him once with my +1 short sword. But the important thing here is that I already had Divine Favor going, which gave me another 2 damage. I already had Smite Evil going, which would give me another 5 damage, and with my 2 points of strength bonus, we're talking about a pretty significant amount of extra damage going on here against that evil creature. Again, Smite Evil is pretty freaking awesome. Have I mentioned that it lasts until we die? So it is for the rest of the combat for sure. I smote the dragon with my stabby stab, and that's when he decided to target me. That's when he missed me. Wisdom's doing his thing, casting spells, and then right away he decided to step into the melee combat as well. The dragon had other things in mind by the time the combat was joined, and he was targeting me up until the point where the cat that's sitting on my shoulder, in glorious mithril armor by the way, decides to attack the dragon. So the cat reaches out and boops the dragon. He actually hits for 1 point of damage, which is the minimum and the maximum damage that Sergeant Whiskers can accomplish. And apparently that proud adolescent, I guess, young black dragon decided, screw that cat, I'm gonna kill that thing. So he shoots a line of acid at the cat. The cat made his reflex save. And because Sergeant Whiskers was riding me, he actually used my character for cover. So he literally like ducks behind my back and takes no damage. And I get a face full of acid. But I also made my save, so let's just say that I protected myself to the best of my ability, which ended up with me taking 5 points of damage through my elemental protection that I had going. Okay. Not terrible. Things could have gone worse. I stabbed the dragon again. Good damage. I pretty much can't miss at this point because of how much attack bonus I get between my abilities and Divine Grace. So the dragon, now furious that not only did Sergeant Whiskers give him a good old boop on the snoot, but also had the nerve to just completely avoid his beautiful breath attack, decides to wail on Sergeant Whiskers. Hits him once, hits him twice, and barely misses with the third attack. Sergeant Whiskers went from 30 hit points to 5 in one round of combat. Dragons are scary. Did I mention that Sergeant Whiskers has like a 24 AC at this point? That dragon was kicking his butt. But my cat just went toe-to-toe with the dragon for 2 rounds. Next round, I use Lay on Hands to, actually, I could have used it as a swift action because he's my familiar, but instead, anyway, I used it as a move action, doesn't really matter. I used Lay on Hands to heal Sergeant Whiskers. I could even use it twice in a round that way, swift action and then move action. Anyway, I healed Sergeant Whiskers for, I think, around like 12 or 14 hit points of damage, which is pretty good. It's nice being a paladin. And then Sergeant Whiskers wisely decides to perform a full round defensive action, which means that he gets another 4 to his armor class. The dragon had decided he was going to kill that cat. And he didn't. The next round, all 3 attacks miss. So, one more round, another hard stab with my Smite Evil, short sword digging into the dragon, dealing serious damage at this point. Wisdom also fighting the good fight with whatever he was doing. I was a little bit distracted. My cat was in danger. And another casting of Lay on Hands, my awesome paladin healing ability to heal my cat. One more round of combat saw the dragon dead. Sergeant Whiskers, who had nearly been wiped out by that dragon with one round of attacks, survived the battle. We almost lost him, but instead we gained a story. And we're in town now, getting a tailor-made suit of dragon hide made for Sergeant Whiskers to celebrate his victory. He booped that dragon good, and he face-rocked, he tanked a dragon for, 4 rounds of combat? Not bad. And he lived to tell the tale. Sergeant Whiskers, you are a god among cats. And that pretty much sums up our story so far. We turned in the quest, we found a cart, we dragged the dragon back to town and pawned off its pieces. My character, as I've mentioned before, is a kitsune, and instead of dumping my feats into things that are actually useful, I've just been focusing on magic tails because it's fun to grow another tail every 2 levels. And I actually used one of my magic tails for like maybe the 3rd time that it's actually been useful at all. It's not a useful way to build a character, but it's fun to play as. I charmed the person that I was haggling for prices of the dragon corpse with, and we got a decent chunk of gold for our, could we call it a trophy? A slain foe? Or whatever it is, it was a payday for us. So in that one mission, we recovered just about the amount of gold that we spent in town before then. Is it time for more permanent spells to be applied to our characters? Well, I decided to have my character permanently reduced. The Reduce Person spell. In some ways, it's the equivalent of being one size category smaller the natural way, and in other ways, it's a little bit better. One of which is in the description of Reduce Person. It doesn't mention that your speed is affected, and that's kind of neat to be a small-sized character with a regular amount of mobility that you're used to as a medium-sized character. And it also gives you a bonus to general nimbleness, as it were, which really helps out for my character who is already built as a dexterity paladin. So all in all, interesting things. My character is a kitsune, loves to just play little tricks on people and fool around, and now I have the appearance of a small human, maybe even passing off as a child. I wonder where that will take us in the future. Oh, I guess we'll find out. Catch you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.